Hey, this is a very outdated reaction because I was streaming a lot and not uploading anything to YouTube. So keep in mind that my opinion might change already or this topic is just not relevant anymore. Now on to the video. Before I start the video though, check out Super Horror Bros. Give them that a view on the or even a subscription. I could subscribe at some point actually. That's not the first time I watch a video of him, because I don't get the lore and the story of a horror game. Well, let's see what this video is all about. Oops.
Today's video, we finally have some answers to our burning questions surrounding the mysteriously horrifying world of Little Nightmares and some of its iconic characters. These answers have come from information contained within the new Little Nightmares audio series, The Sound of Nightmares, for which there are 6 episodes total. Now, while I will be touching on the main plot points of this audio series in today's video, I do strongly recommend listening to them for yourselves, as not only do they contain a ton of lore, they're also really well put together, especially if you're a fan of spooky storytelling.
Okay.
With that disclaimer out of the way, let's dive into a quick synopsis of the Sound of Nightmares story and characters, and then afterwards we'll take a look at how the world of Little Nightmares actually works based on this new information. It's finally time to get some answers. The Sounds of Nightmares is set within a region known as the Counties. While the Counties certainly has its fair share of peculiarities, it does not seem to be set in the same twisted realm we experience while playing the Little Nightmares games. And that's because it's not.
So we don't talk about the games, we talk about audiobook or?
But more on this later. Within the Counties lives a young girl whose real name we eventually learn to be Ruth, but was given the nickname No One by bullies at her school. Therefore, while in the counsellor's presence, Ruth refers to herself as Noon, a nicer variant of that cruel moniker. Noon fell sick after coming into contact with a life-threatening water parasite. The parasite almost killed Noon, but before it could, she received a miracle cure. This cure suddenly shone a spotlight on Noon. She began appearing on TV with the doctor who had cured her, paraded around like a lab.
Yeah, I only played Little Nightmares and Little Nightmares 2. Not very Little Nightmares or any other related games. So he's gonna explain about those games too. Very is mobile. Oh, okay. Now look at that. I had no idea. Well, I think I heard about that actually. Don't know if you told me though.
Experiment for people to celebrate. In fact, even the bullies at her school began treating her differently. She was now a local star within the Counties. However, this miracle cure may have neutralized the parasite within Noon's body, but it also came with a string of nasty side effects. The child began experiencing horrifyingly vivid nightmares, where she was able to taste, smell, and even experience pain, as if her dreams were a reality. She also began to experience severe headaches, which grew increasingly worse as time went by. And while the parasite may have been neutralized, she felt it lived on inside her, pinching and prodding at her organs, and itching at her skin. Noon felt as if she no longer belonged within her own body. As a result of these side effects, Noon's parents decided to commit her to the county's psychiatric institute, where they hoped she would be able to receive treatment that could cure her of these ailments.
So there is actually way more specific lore in the audio version. In the 2 games I played, there was pretty much nothing written down. There was nothing like, oh, and this character did this and this, and that's why they are like that and that. I mean, I faced like the teacher and the hunter and stuff, but I only know that they exist and that they act like they do, but nothing really was explained about them. But in the audio version, I forgot it again, the audio thingy, everything was explained. Okay.
She was referred to a counsellor working on the children's ward named Otto. Otto vows to try his best to help Noon work through her trauma and eventually cure her, so she can return to her parents. However, as Noon begins recounting her nightmares to him during their therapy sessions, Otto gradually becomes more interested in using Noon for his own research purposes. You see, many years ago as a child, Otto lost his beloved sister Cece. She was snatched away by a shadowy figure he calls the Ferryman, a character who those deeply invested in the Little Nightmares lore will no doubt remember.
The Ferryman. Okay, let's try to remember that.
Noon refers to the Ferryman as the Candleman on account of his facial appearance, which she explains looks like melted candle wax. After discovering that Noon has encountered Cece's Ferryman, Otto sets his mind on finding a way to meet the mysterious figure who stole away his sister all those years ago. Throughout the 6 episodes of the show, Noon tells Otto of her nightmares, which take place in a number of spooky locales, each inhabited by their own set of monstrous creatures. There's a prison, a bathhouse, a shopping mall, a circus, a sewer system, and a factory. When Otto learns that Noon can experience senses within these nightmares, he theorizes that she may be crossing over to an alternate reality, a dimension removed from that of the counties in the waking world. This is confirmed to him when, on a number of occasions, while monitoring Noon sleeping by night, he witnesses her vanish into thin air, only to reappear sometime later. And so Otto, in his pursuit to seek out the Ferryman and hope to reunite with his long-lost sister Cece, grows increasingly dangerous and unhinged, casting aside his desire to protect and cure Noon and instead pushing her to breaking point as he attempts to use her to find a way into the nightmare realm she refers to as the Nowhere.
Why is that eye here? Does the Nowhere have something to do with the eyes?
As therapy sessions go on, Otto becomes less and less likable, and we feel increasingly sorry for Noon, whose health is deteriorating rapidly. In fact, after the doctor carries out x-rays on Noon's head, he discovers a tumour growing on her brain. This has been the cause of her headaches. Curiously, Noon's headaches and illness are not present while she explores the Nowhere realm, as if she leaves them behind when travelling between dimensions. In the Nowhere, she is a stronger version of her waking world self. However, she also becomes drawn to the darkness.
So even though we only saw like 2 little people, at most 3, in the audio version, there are enough people that they have an actual society with a doctor and school and stuff. Okay.
As if influenced by the sinister
I thought, okay,
world
never
she
mind.
explores. The show ends with Otto attempting to travel inside the Nowhere with Noon. He hooks her up to a dream apparatus and uses it to tune into the frequency of her nightmare, opening a portal between dimensions. By doing so, he is able to decipher what the Ferryman has said to Noon while the two communicated within the Nowhere. The Ferryman is trying to save Noon, taking her away from the waking world of the counties and into the Nowhere for good, saving her from Otto's dark experiments and curing her of the tumour growing inside her head. Otto has been the real monster this entire time. He tries one last effort to enter the Nowhere with her, by hooking them both up to the dream apparatus so he can share the child's nightmare. However, while doing so, Noon vanishes, taken by the Ferryman for good, just like Otto's sister Cece was all those years earlier. Enraged, Otto vows to discover a way into the dream world and moves on to his next victim, another child patient named Ethan, with a plan to use the boy in a similar fashion, desperate to access the Nowhere. This is where the show ends and a potential season 2 would most likely pick up.
So, another new character. Is this character relevant?
With the story now explained in broad strokes, let's take a look at how, based on the information at hand, the world of Little Nightmares actually works. We now know there are 2 separate realities. The waking world, or counties, in which the story of Little Nightmares takes place, and a nightmare realm called the Nowhere. The latter is the setting of the previous Little Nightmares games, as well as the location of the dreams Noon recounts to her counselor Otto.
Little Nightmares 3 is not out yet. Not even now. Why is there a video? I was streaming a lot and not uploading anything to YouTube, or this topic is just not relevant anymore.
This is why in each of the Little Nightmares games, we witness the child protagonist wake up at the beginning of their adventure. They have just made the transition from the waking world into the Nowhere.
Wait, this is the Nowhere? I thought the Nowhere is is when the body disappears. Just like basically when the slim guy takes the body, then there will be a shadow left behind. I thought the other side basically is the nowhere. Basically when I, in the Little Nightmares 2, went through the TVs.
Before waking in the nowhere, each child crosses through an in-between dimension. Noon refers to this as the halfway place, a portal made up of thick grey mist. This can be seen at the beginning of both Little Nightmares 1 and 2, and represents Six and Mono's crossings respectively. Once the child exits the halfway place through the door before them, they cross the ethereal threshold between dimensions. It seems only children who have experienced extreme trauma while in the waking world become susceptible to the call of the nowhere, falling in tune with its transmission, and eventually, after encountering the ferryman, are taken away from the dangers of the waking world and trapped inside the nowhere realm for good. It's also worth noting that the nowhere appears to be a fractured dimension. From information given to us from the latest game, Little Nightmares 3, we are told that a
Excuse me, I thought Little Nightmares 3 is not out yet. Or is this a demo? I don't want to see Little Nightmares 3 footage yet. Time Traveler? Trailers, okay.
pocket dimension known as the Spiral exists within the nowhere. The Spiral seems to be a vast collection of smaller worlds within the nowhere realm, and the child protagonists, Lo and Alone, have the ability to use mirrors within the nowhere to travel through the different dimensions of the Spiral, moving from place to place. Noon refers to the Spiral as a sea of eyes, floating above an endless mist, each one a doorway to a different land. This suggests the nowhere is more of a construct rather than a singular place, and its fluid nature within the Spiral could explain why things that remain there for too long often end up decidedly twisted and misshapen. However, while the nowhere is a dangerous place too, full of monsters who seem drawn to torment the children who end up there, the children of the nowhere are less than defenseless. If they survive long enough in this realm, they are drawn to its darkness and able to harness great powers.
Yeah,
We saw
like
this with
shotgun
Mono,
chance.
who is able to manipulate.
The darkness takes over Mono, and then Mono turns into the slim guy. And something similar would happen with Six if Mono does not destroy the music box. Isn't that the case?
Manipulate the transmissions sent out by the signal tower to bend time to his will and travel through the very TV signals themselves, eventually
Though
becoming a monster of his own, the Thin Man. Six was also drawn to darkness, eventually able to draw the power from the Lady of the Moor and use these powers to suck the life force from the very creatures who once preyed upon her. So in this realm, the child victims are provided a way to defend themselves against their predators, eventually becoming some of the most powerful inhabitants of the Nightmare realm.
oh, so the Slim Man existed, and I killed the Slim Man, and then turned into a Slim Man, but not literally the same one, but a being with the same powers. Okay.
This seems to be the intention of the ferryman, who acts as a protector, though perhaps a fairly misguided one. We have seen the ferryman protect children before in the
No one
Little
knows.
Nightmares comic series that released alongside the original game.
Well, who knows? Maybe there is actual time travel in the game, but knowing that Six actually stole the ability of the Mirror Lady, that could actually be the case with Mono too. Stealing the ability of the Slim Guy just because I defeated them. So where did Mono get the power to jump through the TVs in the first place? That's the question.
Most
Huh.
notably during the North Wind
Maybe
chapter
still time
of this
travel.
miniseries. Though we must keep in mind that these comics were stated not to be considered canon by the creators. The ferryman is also referred to as a guardian between realms, and appears to be a gatekeeper that can grant or deny passage between the waking world and the nowhere. There is one more element to the nowhere we have yet to discuss: the monsters themselves. This is slightly less clear, But if we apply the theory that children who experience great trauma at the hands of adult tormentors in the waking world become in tune with the nowhere realm and eventually end up transcending over to it, then the same logic can be applied to their tormentors. It would seem these monsters are the twisted nowhere versions of the sinful adults from the waking world, paying for their crimes by taking on horrifying new forms in this alternate reality, forever seeking to prey on the children trapped there with them. In fact, the ferryman addresses Otto during the closing moments of the 6th podcast episode, telling him he is too long in the tooth to travel over as his sister Cece did, but if he pays a high enough toll of torment, he may cross over as an adult, basically warning Otto that if he continues to harm the children in his care, then he may eventually be welcomed into the nowhere as one of its monstrous denizens. Perhaps Otto did continue on his crusade of terror, and eventually became the ferocious doctor being encountered during the events of Little Nightmares 2.
Doctor, yeah, sure.
While nothing is confirmed, the Sounds of Nightmares does hint at Otto's sister Cece being none other than beloved Little Nightmares protagonist 6. While Otto recalls his memories of his sister Cece in episode 5, we even hear 6 in the background humming the music box theme. This kicks in while Otto examines something within his closet, perhaps a memento of his lost sister. However, while I suspect the story is telling us there is a connection between Otto and 6, for now this is just speculation on my part.
Who exactly is Otto again? Okay, maybe 6 is spread, but that's speculation anyway.
Though if this theory is true, then it does mean that unlike the counties within the waking world, the nowhere exists on a different timeline, one that is non-linear, where time has no real meaning at all, and simply exists in its own vacuum.
I mean, it could be. I mean, Room already is kind of broken as we experienced in exactly that section here. So, knowing that the time and space is kind of somewhat the same anyway, time and room breaking together is more logical.
And with that, we've come to the end of this summary of everything we can learn from listening to the Little Nightmares audio series, The Sounds of Nightmares. In future videos, I may...
Thank you for that little explanation. I'm not sure if I'm smarter or dumber right now. But that was interesting. Not much explained in my opinion. But I have a second video here. Also from Super Horror Bro. Little Nightmares 2, the story and all endings explained. I now know a little bit of the world, and that there is more content than just the games. There is that audio series, I guess, that explains a bunch of stuff. I think it's very interesting that there are a lot of, let's call them humans, and wherever the game takes place is the nowhere space. Wherever the game starts is the same place where the characters begin to get to the nowhere space reliably. Let's see. What is the story, Little Nightmares 2, the story and all endings explained? I know now a lot more about the world, and that I am actually in the, not in the normal world, but in a nowhere space, I think they called it. What is the nowhere space? Why am I here? And what are all those characters? Why are all the characters like
Mike
they
here,
are?
and in today's video we venture into a living nightmare as we join two children fighting to survive a world full of monstrous dangers at every turn. This is the story of Little Nightmares 2 Explained. Before beginning, let me quickly outline what this video entails. This exploration of Little Nightmares 2 will serve as both a story recap and theory video. We begin as I walk you, the viewer, through the game, beat by beat, acting as a nice way to catch up on the overall story and its most memorable moments. At certain points we will stop to don our theory caps and analyse key information. with special attention paid to that unforgettably strange and morbid ending and what exactly it all means.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
sit back, relax, and enjoy this full breakdown of Little Nightmares 2's story and its ending.
Oh, sounds promising.
The game opens as we are drawn down a long corridor that bends and distorts before our very eyes.
That is
a
Little
large
Nightmares
doorway
1,
is
right?
found at the end of this corridor, with the door itself featuring
No.
a carving of the iconic eye symbol seen throughout the Little Nightmares series. Before we get to see what may lie behind this door, a blast of static sends us flying back out of a television screen in the middle of a forest clearing.
Yeah.
Here, a young boy with a paper bag covering his head awakens with a jolt. This is Mono.
Okay. I kind of forgot that I jumped out of a TV at the beginning of the game. That implies that I came from another TV. Knowing that I get the ability of that.
Our main protagonist
eventually.
and character we must navigate through the many deadly environments of Little Nightmares world. The children soon find themselves washed ashore outside of a giant urban settlement. This colony is known as the Pale City. The buildings literally buckle and bend under the strain of a transmission emanating from a structure at its center known as the Signal Tower. The tower is able to distort the very world around it, and is responsible for the twisted appearance of the characters living within this nightmarish universe.
And we know this because?
At this time,
Okay, it's just a given fact. Well, never
we
mind.
learn a startling revelation in regard to Mono himself. He approaches a television. Upon touching the screen, Mono is able to warp and bend the image within. An image we are familiar with as it forms the hallway scene during the opening sequence of the game. Mono straightens out this bendy tunnel and is then warped inside the screen itself.
Yeah. That's where we are at the hallway with
As
the
he heads for
eye
the
door
door at the
again.
far end, time itself begins to slow and Mono is ejected back into reality. For now, the hazardous transmission has been calmed, but what could lie behind the door in that in-between dimension? And why exactly is it calling out to Mono?
And that is what I thought when I heard about the Nightmare Realm first. That hallway with the eye at the end is the Nightmare Realm, and where we are at the moment is the real realm. That is apparently not the case. The case is this is the Nightmare Realm, and the hallway with the eye is, I guess, another Nightmare Realm.
The school is inhabited by mischievous students known as the Bullies, and a terrifying teacher watches over them. This teacher has been so warped by the Signal Tower that her neck is now able to stretch out like a snake to horrifying lengths.
He claims that everything was because of the signal tower. But is there any hint about that? Or is it just convenient to think that? Because in the first game we didn't see any signal tower and the enemies were still completely deformed. Maybe they've said it out of the game. Maybe, yes. True. I would like to know where such key information is coming from.
It is also worth noting what exactly it is these students are being taught by their teacher. Looking
Math?
to the chalkboard here, and the scrawlings of this kid in detention here, we see an eerily common theme. Sketches of those all too familiar eyes, and furthermore, the ominous signal tower itself. It seems the broadcast infects every facet of this world, corrupting the very minds of its inhabitants and brainwashing them into blindly worshipping its rogue transmission. Six's slightly preoccupied demeanour takes a more sinister turn. It isn't long before, upon encountering another bully, Six goes out of her way for vengeance and kills in a very angry and sadistic fashion. It seems a darkness festers within her soul. The kids find themselves once again on the cold and rainy streets of the Pale City. It isn't long before they happen upon a rather interesting garment of clothing, a
Yeah,
yellow
that's the
raincoat,
yellow
which
coat.
Six immediately uses to take shelter from the damp outside. This raincoat and its inclusion at this point in the story of Little Nightmares 2 is an interesting point to pick up on. Why? Well, because it raises some questions
No, it answers questions.
as to where exactly in the overall timeline of Little Nightmares this sequel fits.
Well, it is obviously before the first game.
And don't worry, we'll circle back to this very interesting.
Or is it not? Did 6 somehow deposit the raincoat here after the first game? And after the depositing the raincoat here, the second game starts and then we get here? Would that make sense? I don't see how yet.
Timeline question later. The hospital is home of the Mad Doctor, a grotesque obese creature bundled into a mass of overalls who hangs from the ceilings of the hospital wards, creating horrifying works of art in his surgery.
The
The Doctor
bagpipes.
makes a living via the creation of masks, which he sells onto those who can afford to hide their deformities. There are also mannequin-like patients. These were once residents of the Pale City who approached the Doctor looking for a little cosmetic surgery, but got more than they signed up for. One might ask, how does the Doctor transform his patients from human to mannequin and yet keep them alive? It's an interesting question, and once again, one I can only offer my own theory on for you to consider. To explain this process, we must take a look at another element of Little Nightmares 2 I had
The shadows?
previously neglected
The
to
shadows.
mention. The Spirit's Children, or glitches as they are referenced in the game's menu screen.
Okay, glitches. Okay. How many glitches do I have? I don't know. 10?
These glitches are echoes of the past, souls left behind after the host's body has been taken, but remain within the realm of the living as a result of the signal tower and its refusal to let anything escape its broadcast range. What's even more interesting about these ghosts is that Mono is able to consume them, sucking them up into his body almost as a form of energy. Keep this in mind for later in the video. The Doctor uses this electric chair to fry his victim. This keeps the soul trapped in our reality, and the body can then be disposed of or repurposed for other means. The glitched out soul transferred into a new host body. In this case, the mannequin-esque works of art the Doctor enjoys crafting.
That is
Before
what the
leaving
Doctor
the
does.
hospital, Mono and Six are chased down by the Doctor himself. The duo are able to trick the Doctor into crawling inside the furnace, burning him alive in a true Hansel and Gretel style moment.
Yeah. And fire. The fact that 6 is warming her
Mono and
hands.
Six leave the hospital behind,
is
now on the
dark.
final leg of their great adventure. These city dwellers are known as the viewers, and stare hypnotically into their television screens.
Known as the viewers.
We see just what kind of effect this transmission has on brick and mortar around the Pale City, so it's no surprise this distortion causes such affliction and deformity to flesh and bone. While exploring a dilapidated building, Mono discovers another TV set broadcasting a powerful transmission. Once again he warps inside, however this time he manages to hold out and reach the door at the end of the hallway. Opening the door releases a powerful entity from within, a tall, lanky, all-powerful phantom known
Slim.
as the Thin Man.
Thin?
Just
I
like
thought
Mono,
slim.
Thin
Thin,
Man is able
okay.
to transition between the world within the television screens and our own reality. Six and Mono desperately try to escape his grasp, but unfortunately, Six doesn't pick the best hiding place and is taken.
Yeah, and zoop.
From
Gone.
this chilling sequence we learn something very unsettling.
And backstays a shadow. You don't think 6th place was bad? It was good for us at least. But okay, shadow glitch. Why is there still a glitch? Wasn't 6 just pulled away, or is this glitch still a past version of 6? If that is the case, why was 6 spared in that past version. If 6 was spared in the past version because Mono died, where is the glitch of Mono then?
About Finman and his implications on the rest of this tormented world. It seems he claims the bodies of these victims. The glitches of the children we find around this world are a result of his actions. Finman claims his prey, leaving only an echo of their existence behind, captured in time by the signal tower's transmission. This also explains why the clothes of these viewers have been left behind. As a tweet on the official Nightmares account states, "Where they're going, they won't need these anymore." The viewers have been claimed by the signal tower, but before the tower takes their bodies, it first consumes their life force, quite possibly to power itself. As the viewers are transfixed to the broadcast, their bodies erode and energy is drained until they wither and die, at which point Finman claims them for the tower.
Yeah.
We noted earlier in the video that Mono had the ability to access the dimension in between worlds, a place from which the signal tower seems to exist. He also had the ability to consume the glitches of those children taken by Finman. We now learn he has a very similar power.
And aiming correctly gives him a real bad
He takes
time.
on Finman in an epic battle on the rain-soaked streets and eventually vanquishes him. As Finman fades into eternal rest, Mono bends the city to his will and warps directly outside the signal tower. Strangely, the doors open wide as if to welcome him inside.
Huh.
The inside of a signal tower seems to be a dimension unto itself. Gravity
Maybe having fresh power is also stronger than powers that are used up. Maybe the Thin Man was like weakened, in a weakened state.
exists for Mono as he explores, yet objects float
Because we know he was like threat for ages.
around as if gravity isn't present at all. He is guided by one familiar sound, a piece of music any Little Nightmares fan will instantly recognise. Eventually, this music leads Mono to a strange room full of children's toys, and in this room, he makes a terrible discovery. Six has become warped and distorted herself, bent to the will of the signal tower, and twisted into a giant nightmarish abomination.
Bent to the will of the signal tower. I thought bent to the will of that music box.
She closely guards a music box. Mono realizes this music box holds some kind of power over his friend, and so takes a hammer and smashes it.
Kaboom. And I do that like 3 more times. Every time first try. Imagine.
This sends Six into a fit of furious rage. As Six chases Mono through the ever-changing halls of this structure, its walls transform from plaster to flesh. Everything in this place is fake, an illusion to mask the evil festering within. It seems the signal tower is able to pull from one's own memories. In Mono's case, it uses a memory he associates with Six, when he first freed her from imprisonment in the hunter's cabin, and applies it to his quest to free her here. For Six, the music box is used, the one thing that kept her calm and collected while she was held prisoner herself.
Yeah, that's true.
However, the tower seems to use this memory against Six, making sure she guards the object that binds her to this twisted form. We know this because when Mono finally delivers the finishing blow and destroys the music box, the signal tower loses its control over Six and returns her to human form. Now before we move on to the game's ending, I would like to briefly address my personal theory as to why Six looked and acted this way while held within the signal tower.
I'm still not completely convinced that everything is the signal tower's fault. As I said, in the first game we don't have a signal tower. And still the bodies are deformed and crazy. Aren't they just normally deformed? No, because as we looked in the other video, the normally deformed people actually only wear the masks that the doctor creates. The Doctor creates the masks, and the people from the first game wear those masks, implying that they look actually way worse. They don't have special abilities. With the exception of the Mirror Lady, I don't think they have special abilities. That is correct. If Mirror Lady is a thing of its own, why isn't the Hunter a thing of its own? The Doctor a thing of its own? The Thin Man a thing of its own? True Hunter is not special. The Teacher a thing of its own. But yeah, you get what I mean. And I'm not convinced yet why the signal tower is the fault of everything. Maybe it was stated somewhere, but not in the games. And it still is not obvious to me that the last section of the second game takes place inside of the signal tower.
What exactly the signal tower is, it seems to be a living organism, a fleshy mass disguised as a structure. The tower preys on the life force of others and uses its powers to distort and corrupt everything around it.
It means they were under the signal tower. Maybe. I know the city is like near the ocean because of the shore. And the first game takes place on a ship, which is also on the ocean. So maybe I can connect the dots here.
Its fleshy form explains why bodies are taken once their energy has been sapped. Their flesh and bones are consumed to add to the tower's ever-growing mass of body parts. For Six, who throughout both Little Nightmares games has shown to possess a cruel and sadistic persona, despite often having good intentions, this manifestation was represented clearly. A bitter, twisted, angry and vengeful creature, amplified by the signal tower, her only comfort, as stated before, the music box she associated with happy memories. Six was guarding her own imprisonment. With Six saved from the tower's control, the two adventurers make haste and rush for the exit, the tower now fully revealing itself as a gory mess of flesh, organs and eyeballs.
Now Super Robot, explain to me why Six
see throughout the world of Little
lets me
Nightmares,
fall.
always watching. Six races ahead, but Mono stumbles. At first it seems as though Six will leave him. However, at the last minute, she doubles back and catches Mono by the hand, only to let him go a few moments later. So why this sudden betrayal? Mono saves Six at the beginning of the game, once again in the schoolhouse, and then yet again from the confines of the signal tower. So it seems strange that Six would let him fall, and on purpose no less. However, if we consider the kind of person that Six is, things make a little more sense. You see, Six has always looked out for her own survival first and foremost, and when we consider the events of Little Nightmares 2 and the horrors she encountered while accompanying Mono, it is logical to conclude she grew tired of being put in harm's way. While Mono had saved her, he had also exposed her to many very perilous encounters. Add to that the fact we know Six is not a very trusting person, and after the hardships she has been subjected to, who can blame her? And if we pay close attention to the scenes in which Mono attempts to reach the door within the signal dimension, we can see the real reason he is ejected from these television sets is because Six pulls him out, sensing he is being drawn to something sinister. Knowing Mono possesses such radical powers, the same powers as Thin Man himself no less, would be a major red flag. It is likely Six felt threatened by Mono's presence and was worried he may turn on her at some point. Better to leave him behind and take no chances. But then, why did she return to him at all? Well, look to the exit. It is made up of a static portal, much like those television screens that Mono uses his powers to transition through at various points during their adventure. Six was never able to travel through these screens herself, because she did not possess such power. If we recall the ending of the original Little Nightmares, you will remember that Six drained the lady of her powers when she herself was powerless. This sequence seems to mirror that scene. Mono, now powerless, hangs in the balance, and Six returns to him and absorbs just enough of his power to allow her to escape without the aid of her newfound friend. We are given confirmation that Six obtains an element of Mono's power in the game's true ending.
Yeah, I see why. But that theory is also very interesting.
Here we witness Six exiting the signal tower through a television screen.
Yeah. But at this point in time, how does Six know that killing Mono will grant her that power? Unless Six killed the Mirror Lady before already. So then the timeline needs to be a little bit rearranged. I like the theory that Six saw the thin man in Mono. I like that theory. I think that makes more sense too, because Six saw the thin man.
However, this consumption of power has one terrible consequence. It causes Six to glitch herself. Her body cannot handle this new energy, and so while Six is able to channel the power of others, it changes her every time. In this first instance, Six loses her soul, the good she had within. Her moral compass is removed, and in its place a hunger to fill the void. That's right, Little Nightmares 2 is no sequel, but a stealth prequel to the
I don't think that makes sense, because why should Six know that killing Mono will grant her the power? It makes sense. Okay, assuming Mono knows that killing Six knows that killing Mono will grant her the power of the static picture thingy. Where does she know that? From the Mirror Lady? Okay, then it would be a sequel, not a prequel. The other way around, thinking the same way still, if the Mirror Lady was defeated before the second game, that makes actually sense, because at the end with the Mirror Lady, we are technically only defeating ourselves, and then we get granted the ability. In that case, the first game should be before the second game, which makes no sense because of the raincoat. Maybe those are two completely separated timelines anyway. It could be a loop. Though for the loop we still need to connect some more. Maybe the third game will show us that eventually.
Six warps to the Maw, where she now carries an unquenchable desire to fill the void left by her split soul.
Yeah, that is where we start the first game. But I think the first game is... Yeah, this first game is after the second game, but letting Mono fall has a completely different reason as to gather the picture, the TV static power.
A hunger which led to some unfortunate consequences. So Little Nightmares 2 leads directly into the sequel, which we already played back in 2017. Now his use has been served, Six discards Mono and leaves him to the mercy of the signal tower. Mono becomes trapped at the bottom of the tower, amongst the flesh and eyes. There is no happy ending here, no escape for poor Mono.
Another question, why does Six get the power of Mono, like immediately? Mono is still alive, and it seems like this takes a long time for Mono to transform, and technically still being alive, and technically still having that TV powers, because he transforms into the Thin Man and not into any other creature that does not have the screen power. Okay, there are obviously still a few holes. Maybe meant to be.
The signal tower corrupts his body and mind. It uses his powers to broadcast out to the world and to drain those of their life force. Mono becomes Thin Man. He has always been Thin Man. The story of Little Nightmares 2 is a never-ending cycle. Mono and his powers, exploited though they may be, are the cause of all of the evil and suffering found in all three Little Nightmares games.
But why does Six get the screen ability then? If Mono never dies. Unless Six has the screen ability in the first place.
Six's betrayal turned Mono's pure and innocent mind into one seething with anger and hatred, a hatred the tower now uses to its advantage. You may ask how Thin Man, who we will now refer to as Thin Mono, exists in the same time period as Young Mono. The signal tower puts out a broadcast, but a broadcast has no particular tie to any time zone or period. So as Thin Man, Mono is able to travel between past, present, and future at will. He simply required someone to free him from this prison, and thus travels back to his childhood to try and trick his younger self into opening the door that imprisons him. Unfortunately, Mono is always bested by his younger, stronger self, and so the cycle repeats forever, and Mono remains forever trapped. And with that, we have come to the end of this very long and very in-depth video. There are many interpretations of this story, and this is simply mine. If you enjoyed watching today,
I did enjoy watching, you certainly get my like. Check out Super Horror Bro, just in case you did not yet. Yeah, that's it. That was the Little Nightmares 2 lore videos and the games and everything. I'm not sure what I will 3 Gonna Save Us All. Yeah. I want more questions, more answers and less questions, please. But maybe I need to play the audio version for that. Who knows?